So this is the point I want to make to people. Every single thing that Darkside Phil for years that he had been telling his audience that he wasn't about. He wasn't about drama anymore. He wasn't about begging anymore. He was a family man. He wasn't
he's got a
about
cat.
doing clout. He didn't do politics or any sort of political grift. Every single thing that Phil sold himself on during the course of the Keno Casino arc, he sold his soul to me. He absolutely sold out every single principle that he ever claimed to stand for, starting with drama and then moving into politics. He did the political grift, trying to chase my audience and chase my donors, and he fucking failed. And bit by bit by bit, we took Darkside Phil's soul away to the point where even his precious family, even his wife, Kat, even his parents, even his cat weren't off limits for me. I could say whatever the fuck I wanted, and Phil would lay down like a pig in the fucking mud.
Yeah, because he was making money from you. As long as he was making money, he was okay with anything you said.
The only thing he cares about is money. And he gave it all up. And he doesn't have a fucking leg to stand on. Much like how the final boss, The Rock, took John Cena's soul last week, I took Phil's soul throughout this entire arc, and he's left with nothing. He associated with racism. He shilled for Donald Trump. You know what I mean? He said deplorable, toxic thing about women, calling Lex a slut
and an
erasure, and he was jealous and bitter of losing his money to her. All of the things he talks about, how he's not toxic. He is 100% toxic.
Only positive content, P.
The thing is, this guy wants to be a bully. This guy wants to be a drama streamer. He wants to be able to deliver the promo like I do. That's why he looks up to me as a father figure. That's why he looks up to me as an idol.
Well, yeah, you're very talented. You have all the talent he wishes he had.
I'm capable of doing the things that Phil wishes he could do. Exactly. He looks at me and he goes, oh, there's a guy who can fight my battles for me, and I can hide behind his skirt, and I can do drama with the safety net, and there'll be no consequences. Well, Phil, the consequences are coming now, Phil. The consequences are on their way, Phil. Everything that you've sowed for the last 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, however long it's been of the casino arc, you are now going to sow. All of the old viewers that you alienated by trying to pander to my audience, which you could never have because you're not talented enough, intelligent enough, charismatic enough to entertain an audience as intelligent enough as the one that I have and Steve has. Phil, our audience is going to leave.
They're all going to leave him.
Have already left.
Banish him, P. Banish him from the Kenoverse. Banish him from the Kenoverse.
Banished. He banished himself by being a fucking bitch. He banished himself by being unable to play with the big boys. He couldn't play a big boy game. It hurt his fucking feelings to do the things that were necessary to attract attention and entertain people in this sphere. The thing is, Phil takes this stuff way too seriously. Way too seriously. He takes himself way too fucking seriously. He has the thinnest skin of anybody I've ever worked with. He's a total fucking diva. He can't handle being the nail. He wants to be the hammer, but he doesn't have the fucking balls to be either the hammer or the nail.
Or the talent. He just doesn't have it.
What's fucked up about Phil is he's just a castrated bitch. Phil is so afraid of being critiqued, of being controversial, of drawing negative attention, that he makes himself a completely neutered, milquetoast, boring, horrible presenter. At least when he was the king of hate and he was saying crass and crude and villainous heel things, at least there was something interesting to that. And I pleaded with him to go to the sort of character that's like that doesn't give a fuck what they have to say, doesn't care what people think of them. Because I said to Phil,
you try to help them.
Phil, everybody hates you anyway. Nobody likes you. There's a handful of special needs people.
Morons. He's got a fefew morons.
A lot of them are legitimately on like disability. A lot of them are legitimately in wheelchairs. People who would be entertained by Blue's Clues or fucking Dora the Explorer. It's the same sort of bland, milquetoast, no edges, sanitized garbage that Phil peddles. It's just full on slop. And it's slop that he delivers every single day. So we go back to the interview that you were supposed to do with Phil. If we told Phil that in any way this interview would be hostile or confrontational or aggressive, he would have never agreed to do it. Because he's a pussy and he's a bitch. And he runs from confrontation. He runs from criticism because the lies that he tells are like the lies of a child. Any adult that's worth their salt,
see right through it.
That has any sort of critical thinking skills, knows that he's lying and can effortlessly dismantle his lies in real time. And unless he's just talking to himself, it becomes readily apparent that he's just a fucking clown, that he's just a fucking joke, that the emperor has no fucking clothes. Every single time he exits that hug box that he lives in, 24/7, 365. It's the hug box. It's a fantasy land where it's basically like North Korea, where any sort of dissent is banned. And Phil cries about Raw Phil. He cries about the restreamers. He cries and he cries about the stream snipers. But Phil, had you not turned your own chat into a North Korea hug box, there would still be 1,000 people there today watching. If you had allowed them to make fun of you in chat, to send in troll super chats that you reacted to, that were milked for reactions instead of shutting everything down like a big little bitch, you would be doing far better today. Phil wants to make himself out to be the victim. Over and over and over again, he cries and he cries. The detractors did this to me. Tevin did this to me. Duty did this to me. Steve did this to me. But guess what, Phil? Every single thing that you have done that has happened to you has been the consequence of your own actions. Where you are at now is a direct result of what you have done in the past, what you are currently doing, and what you are going to do in the future. You have control over your own behavior, Phil, and you have to accept responsibility and accountability for your own consequences. But what the detractors and what me and you and anybody who's critical of him allow him to do is scapegoat everything to a boogeyman. It's never his fault. It's always somebody else's fault. If it wasn't for the dastardly, dirty trolls, he would be a millionaire. He would be so successful. But
he made millions. He squandered it living a millionaire's lifestyle, on other people's money. That's the big issue.
Thing is, Phil needs people like me. He needs people like me that he can point the finger to, and he can say, that's the bad guy. He can point at Duty. He can point at Tevin and say, that's the bad guy. That's the one responsible for all my problems. But Phil, does that make you good? No, Phil. You're just weak.
Yeah, he's too weak to rise above.
You're a cockroach that makes yourself into a fucking victim. Instead of being a man and rising up and actually victimizing and winning and bending reality to your will, you choose to lay down in the fetal position and die on an island alone like a little bitch, crying about all of your fucking problems. Well, nobody gives a fuck about your problems. Do you know what a baby does? It fucking cries because it has no other recourse, Phil. It needs somebody to change its diaper for it. But you're a 42-year-old man, and you should have developed better
like
coping
yeah.
skills than fucking crying. But this is a guy who honestly is mentally not well. He is arrested development. I'm not sure he ever advanced past juvenile mindset of like 14, 15 years old.
I was going to say 12.
You know what I mean? Like, he thinks that women's periods are icky. This is supposedly a mature married man that when he sees a tampon ad, he's like, ooh, gross. Strange stuff. Strange stuff from a supposed mature
married man,
adult man there. I mean, it's just the reality. This is a guy who cries in his mid-30s or late 30s about how his parents didn't buy him a Wolverine toy.
I know.
When he was a boy.
It's tragic. It's tragic.
The tragedy. I didn't get the Wolverine.
I didn't get the toy that I wanted.
Stupid parents should have bought it for me. He's so entitled. He's so entitled. He thinks that the whole world owes him a living. And what's crazy is it's the world, the weird Skinner box that he's plugged himself into has validated that worldview. That worldview has never been challenged because people literally do hand him a living on a silver platter.
You're right, but I think that's going to change now. Don't you think that his income is going to take a huge hit from doing this? Because the Keno people are never going to donate to him again.
It is a slow, ever sinking ship.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
There always seems to come another whale to save Phil, another whale to save Phil.
You better start crying tonight.
He seems to get bailed out. But you know, Phil, one day, it might be soon, it might be a long ways away, but one day there won't be any more whales because your show will be so boring, so toxic, so lame, hosted by a 50, 60-year-old man pretending to be a pro gamer. That no one will care. And the thing that's
got fourth place or something once.
Oh my God. The God's honest truth is that Phil needs the detractors. He needs the detractors to stay relevant. He needs the detractors because he needs someone to blame so that he can be the victim, so that he can escape accountability for his own actions. And what we saw today was the same thing. Oh, PPP victimized me. PPP did me wrong. Ooh. And it's just fucking sad.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Phil is a liar. He lies all the time. All the time. And the lies never, ever, ever, ever end. And it just starts to get exhausting.